question on that as to we have to change the way marketing is done currently. We are still relying on very old methods. We have these bloggers, we have these influencers. I have not yet seen, maybe I missed out on something, but I have not yet seen many of them being utilized to promote brand India, and she's one of the examples I gave you. Like, I don't know how many of you have seen the YouTube of that lady who traveled across India on a Royal Enfield bike, but had we sort of put our branding there and given her some aid, and she could have done more she could have done more setting up propaganda about India. So what's your take on that?
See, there's a saying, many years ago when I was at Kerala Tourism, we used to say, one word in the editorial is greater than 100 advertisements, right? But the thing about the editorial is it can cut both ways. Sometimes it goes well for you, sometimes it can go against you. There are experiences which are there, and the country is not going to change for the traveler. The traveler will come and do this. So let me give you an example. I think in 2016 or 17, we had this Australian called Pat Farmer, who said that he will come and do an incredible India run. He started from Kanyakumari and he virtually ran up to Srinagar. And we got Pat Farmer here and we arranged the whole thing for him. So that from Kanyakumari, when he ran in Kerala, the humidity was so high. This man was on the second day had to be taken to the hospital and he had to be put on a drip. And lo and behold, the third day he was up and back to running. And the way that it was done was meticulously organized. Incredible India was there. Each state took the ownership to sort of clear the road, etc. And we did it because it's the Spirit of India run. That was the title that was given. So when people come and when we do these, landmark things, and a whole lot of your tour operators were associated with that. States provided accommodation, and it was the tour operators who said, they will, map it out and the routes, etc. So all of that was done. So we need to do these things. There will be bad experiences. I am not saying no. Yes, in the sense, if there are 100, maybe 10 of them, 20 of them are not going to work out well. How is it that we can make sure that, that we minimize that we minimize the impact of that? Which means the industry needs to be proactive, the governments need to be proactive. And I think the first and most important thing is that we need to open our eyes to these influencers and realize that they matter. And how do we harness that energy, which is where I started from. And one of the ideas that we are now working on is to create some curated residences. For example, if wellness tourists come from Germany to India, how can we find influencers who are influential in, say, wellness tourism and with a large followership? Can we bring them to India, put them up at Ananda in the Himalayas or Somathiram in Kerala? We can ask Air India to cover the flight tickets. We can ask these hotels to host them, create a nice itinerary. IATO can, put it together. And then create ambassadors, sort of for us. So those are areas that we need to work. I'm not denying that there will be bad experiences. It happens. But, we will have to see how to minimize that and how to maximize the potential.
So, collaborations. Thank you. Rajiv. We are not basically able to hear ourselves and hear the answers. Yeah. So Rajiv, you've been a second generation entrepreneur, and Creative Travels, we all know, has contributed a lot to the Indian tourism from its foundation to where it is today. What are the biggest perception challenges India faces as a tourism destination? And how can marketing address these concerns? And how has the brand India evolved over a period of time from your dad's time to where it is today? Can you please run us through this?
Thanks, Naveen. I'm going to preface with three quick things. Number one, when Ravi invited me, he invited me knowing I'm not capable of having a filter. Number two, I personally make a big distinction between the Ministry of Tourism and the Government of India. If Soman and his team had the money and resources, our conversations would be very different. Our issues lie elsewhere, and I've always said that. Third, I want to make it very clear to all of you sitting here that you've had no support from the country for the last several years. Every piece of business that you have gotten is based on your merit, your efforts, your money spent, and you should be bloody proud of what you have achieved. Okay? You discount that, we have done a lot. Okay? It is a different world. 7-8 months ago, we didn't know what AI was. All of a sudden, the entire world of marketing has been flipped over. And by nature, I'm a marketing and communications person. That's what I love doing. India today does not have a brand. Okay, we've been out of the market for so long that we are known as a country. There are people we are getting organically, but we don't have a brand presence. We need to make a distinction, all of you, because everyone gets very emotional about incredible India, incredible India, incredible India. There's a difference between being an incredible country and an incredible tourism product. Now, given the fact that we have not had a brand for several years, for me, that's opportunity. Okay? We are not going to reinvent something that's been working, but the brand is very old and no organization on the planet has kept with the same brand for years. Look at a Pepsi, look at a Coke, look at a Sony, look at whatever. There are brand evolutions, and that's the nature of marketing. So given that we don't have a strong brand presence today, given how different the market is, because can everyone under 30 raise your hands? Under 30, raise your hands high. Everyone else is too old for this business. You have no clue what's going on. When you're speaking to this generation, they're being employed differently, they're thinking differently, they're traveling differently. We're getting too old for this shit, honestly. I'm going to challenge IATO. We're waiting. Everyone waits for him to act. No. There's nobody better placed, because I think personally, the marketing companies, the advertising agencies are giving a lot of garbage because they're rehashing what is done historically. We need to look at what is Turkey doing, what is Thailand doing, what are they doing? I mean, the most amazing advertising today in the world is Saudi Arabia. They have knocked it out of the park. The communication is different. It is not about elephants, temples, and the Taj Mahal. Yeah. The consumer is looking for something differently, and we need to be going to them. Here are 5 options for a new brand. And this is not something that Ravi and his team does. This is something we collectively do, because that has to be our contribution. We know what's going on. The world has changed. Okay? How we're communicating with the market has changed. It is a fact that there is no demand overseas with our operators. And for those working in the B2B market, we're struggling. For those handling the B2C market, maybe their path is a little bit different. How will they use AI? How will they use that? I mean, I'm trying to challenge my team. How am I going to use AI? But it's enough. We need to stop being morose and sad and blame the government. It is what it is. Okay, you have no money today. Maybe we'll get it in the next budget. But why are we not doing things on our own? We can. Okay, we have the money. IATO has a few crores. Spend it. But I see opportunity because we can reinvent ourselves starting from zero. Incredible India was launched 20 years ago? Someone? Incredible India?
2022 it started.
Okay.
2002, sorry.
So, a long time ago. Okay? We can reinvent what we want to be. What is our voice? What is our brand persona? Because if I put all of you in a room and ask you, tell me what is India? What does India mean to your consumers? It's a confusing zoo. We need to come up, what is our brand persona? What do we stand for? What do we want to be? And I go around the world speaking to destinations. And I've done this internally in states as well. The question is what do I want to be when I grow up? Okay? We have reached the level as an Incredible India brand where we are. Now, when we need to reach the under 30s, because they are the clients, that's the generation coming in. What do we want to say and how do we want to say it? That's a conversation we've not had. And that's not a one-session conversation. It's not a one-day conversation. It's a very long conversation. And I'm willing to help Ravi and his team help that. We bring in professionals because I can say with certainty that this room is best positioned in the world to state what do we want the world to think about our brand. Okay? It's not the other way around. They have to do what they have to do. And they have a lot of things to do. But we have to give them that support on what we can do.
So, you know what Rajiv, you said, And I firmly believe in what you said, because they will do things at the macro level. And we all need to get together. For example, in the next IATO, I would really want a complete workshop to be held on how AI can help you market yourself and reach the consumers directly. Because as I said earlier, I have been working on an AI tool which will basically do analytics, planning your complete marketing, strategizing your marketing campaigns, designing your marketing campaigns, and making it very cost effective for you. Because currently what is happening in India, we are not reaching to the consumers directly, as what he said. Today, the younger generation that we expect to travel with us, because as Mr. Billa yesterday said, that the leisure inbound is declining, and that's because we are not communicating with our travelers. Today they don't travel to just visit monuments and do circuits. Today they travel to be a better version of themselves, and you have to reach out to them directly. The time is come. There will be very soon, you will see that if you're not in B2C, communicating with consumers directly around the world, chances are that the businesses will not survive. So it's time that we start having workshops on AI, using AI as a marketing to basically build up your businesses, and then the government will come in to do that at the macro level. That's my take on it. So coming to Mr. Mohanty, you've been I think you've been an example of how an entrepreneur can shape the future of state tourism, and you've demonstrated that in the recent past, and you're still demonstrating it. And what yesterday you said is that I went to Mr. Rajiv Mehra and said, do a convention in Puri, and it has changed, and they said, where is the hotel? And then I'm going to do the hotel. My question to you is, how can we improve coordination between central government initiatives like Incredible India and state tourism boards' promotional efforts to basically catch up like what Mr. Billa said, is that there is Incredible India and then there is this state tourism campaigns. How do you see that states will leverage on it and the whole country will leverage on that?
Well, like Rajiv said, Incredible India campaign was launched in the year 2002. It was successful at that time because funds were available. The Ministry of Tourism had a lot of funds in promoting the Incredible India campaign. Today, for continuing the Incredible India campaign, I don't think the ministry is spending that kind of funds, and the offices of the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India in all the countries have closed down. This is what I feel is one of the main reasons why we are not able to reach out to those customers whom we want. Regarding the distinction between the Incredible India campaign, the government ministry is thinking, and how the states are going about. I don't think there have been workshops between the Ministry of Tourism and the different state governments on promoting India as one platform. That is essential, and that has to be on a regular basis, on a quarterly basis, where the secretaries of tourism of different states sit along with the Ministry of Tourism and work out. Another lacuna is the Government of India suddenly decided that the tourism will be promoted by the embassies. Are the embassies ready? Were the embassies consulted that they would be given suddenly charge of promoting tourism? You see, I will give you names of certain countries like Vietnam, China, and other countries where English is not so common, and those embassies, the officials in those embassies don't have any idea on any state in India to promote tourism. When a person goes to Vietnam embassy inquiring something about India, they don't have a staff who can explain anything on India on any state. That was one of the major problems why suddenly the tourism, inbound tourism has gone down. I think my suggestion would be aggressive cooperation and workshops of all the states with the center. Each state has its own advantages. Each state has its own merit of what it has to sell. Like Odisha has, we have wildlife, we have beach, we have temples, architecture, tribal life. Another state may be having something. I think with the Ministry of Tourism, I think it may become too much, but the ministry has to have a separate Director General, I believe, for marketing, only for marketing. That would be essential, where we take help of specialists for marketing India as a destination. That's my feeling.
Well said. So before I'll have one question of Mr. Billa, and after that, I'll throw the session open to the public, because I feel we have distinguished tour operators here, and if I don't throw it open to them, I think I'll be doing a biggest disservice to this forum. So, Mr. Billa, one question. We've seen what international tourism boards have come and done in India to catch a pie of the Indian outbound traffic, which has been growing substantially and rather exponentially. To keep that as an example, what are the measures that Indian Ministry of Tourism, the Department of Tourism of India is doing to set that up in various countries? Because I have seen, I personally wanted to do a campaign in Europe and Nordics last year, and I thought we'll do a kind of I went to my embassies and I said, look, I want to know which is the PR company promoting India here, and they said there is none. And then I was surprised because, and disappointed at the same time, because I said, if we don't have PR companies in various countries promoting India, doing road shows there, where are we going to reach? Because we've seen what, I started my business in 1992. There was no tourism board in India, there was no international hotel chain global sales office in India. Today, almost everybody is India to capture that pie of 27 million travelers. Now, what is the vision of government, the Department of Tourism, Government of India, and how do you think, when do you think we'll have it?
So before I get to it, let me say this. What is the most ideal way that promotion happens around the world? Is that it is primarily industry driven. What is the brand USA model? Is that the industry contributes $1, and every dollar that the industry contributes is matched by the government. Then the locus of marketing is shifted outside of the government. Then you are not untrammeled by the general financial rules of the government, etc., but you take it within a board in which the states would be there, government of India would be there, but it should be the industry which should take that and put your money where your mouth is, right? But that's a model I've been saying for over 10 years now. I don't think we've made much success with that, but that is something that we still need to think of. Going forward in the long term, that is the direction that we need to take. Second is that we need to start thinking strategically. The problem with the tourism sector is that after the horses are bolted, then we realize that the gates have been opened. But the idea is to understand where the world is going and proactively be able to put the pieces in place, to be able to anticipate where we are going. For example, I used to be industry secretary in Kerala before I came here recently. So many years before the Vizhinjam port got commissioned, the Indian Ports Association, the Adanis, through multiple things, they were actually coming and campaigning saying the port is going to open. This is the traffic that is already there on the road. These are the additional vehicles which will come. These are the choke points. So you need to, start opening it up. So work on those had started 4 years before. And what is the outcome of doing that? Is that the decision that has to be taken is not taken when the problem is standing at your doorstep. The decision is taken 4 years before you've even arrived at having that problem. We need to start thinking strategically. This morning again, when I said, this is the approach that we need to say. Not to say that, anybody can come and break the numbers and say that this is how the numbers are going. I know that, you know that. But the idea is, how do we think strategically to see what is going to happen 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, and how do we do this? Next part is we all meet together and then we say, Government of India should have done this, should have done that, should have. What is it that the industry is bringing to the table? Every time we have a conversation, somebody comes and releases a report. The report gives more of the same things that we already know. And as in my opening remarks, I have said the context has changed. The world has changed. How do we, and you yourself said there are many boards who are operating in India. Have we put together something as a guidance to the government? Like I said, much like the Ports Association was saying, this is the report, we have mulled the numbers, this is what it looks like. Have you,
I actually did that.
No, you have to come as an association, you have to come as an industry and say that this is where the context is going, this is how we should work, this is the strategy we need to have for this. Maybe that it won't be 100% accepted, but do not rely entirely upon the wisdom of the government, because I am not front-facing the client, I have a limitation. I am understanding it from my perspective, but when all of you who are actually facing the clients or facing the market, when you distill that wisdom and say this is what we should be doing, why should the government say no to it? So now let me come to the last part, which is the question that you have said about the embassies. The decision is taken at the highest political level. There is no getting away from it. As JK said, it is around. The time is past now to discuss whether what is right or what is wrong. Because there are many reasons why the Incredible India offices also they had several drawbacks because of which this decision was taken.
Because the offices were closed to basically empower embassies to promote tourism.
Not really, because there are others in the industry who are also been saying that the Incredible India offices abroad were not doing the jobs that they were done. And there were limitations because we did not have language skills as a prerequisite for people to be posted there. So it took lead time for people to get into it. So the question now is, how do we make the best of it? And the challenge, the strategy that I am now working with the missions is that list out all of the activities that we want the mission to cover. What our Incredible India officers were doing earlier and what are relevant now. Second is try and find ways of getting it done, because the guy in the mission, firstly, my biggest opposition to embassies taking on that role is that embassy is a access control place. You cannot walk into an embassy to say, I plan to travel to India next month, how do I go? You can't. There have been secretaries to Government of India who have been held up at the gate because the information did come that such and such person was.
Yeah, but that can still happen.
But what is the way out of it? Is that my solution is that you have one officer who is dedicated to look after tourism. But he also needs to be supported by somebody who works 24/7 on the tourism sector, which means that you have to select an agency which works as the arms of the embassy to undertake these activities. We have to find ways to work around it. And that planning is going on, so I'm hopeful that by the next year, we should have a robust campaign in place, and by the next year, we should also have onboarded the embassies fully onto this platform.
Which means you're saying that you will be appointing PR companies within the geographies where we have missions and starting campaigns.
The embassies, yes. We will report into the embassies and undertake the activities that we want them to do.
So what I also take up from what you said, and I think Ravi is here from IATO and the whole IATO board is here. What he said, and I think it's time that we all stand up and understand our responsibility to partner with the government and run campaigns and contribute to those campaigns. I think IATO as a body used to do that once upon a time, and I think we need to reinvent that wheel, do road shows on our own. And if you recall, I've said that in the past, that to globalize IATO as an association, I think in future, I would love to see within my lifetime international tour operators coming into a convention like this and hearing us out and having a session with us. That is somewhere a responsibility that lies on our shoulders to basically build brand India. It doesn't just lie on